Hey, it's Eli aka Atlas here, and today I'm going to be doing a video tutorial on how to draw eyes. The first thing we need to know about eyes is eyes are extremely easy to draw. The reason being, because we know how to draw them. The first thing we need to know about eyes is the science behind them. Rod and cone cells in the retina allow conscious light perception and vision, including color differentiation and the perception of depth. The human eye can distinguish about 10 million colors. The eye is not shaped like a perfect sphere, and this is important. Rather, it is a fused two-piece unit from the cornea to the vitreous body, as you can see here. So it's actually a circle with kind of a bump in it. The smaller frontal unit, which is more curved, called the cornea, is linked to the large unit called the sclera. Kind of a tongue twister. Sclera. And the reason that is because the eye socket, or the orbit, as we can see here on this makeshift human skull, is not totally circular itself. So the eye fits through this socket, which is a little bit bigger than the eye itself, and there are fluids and blood and all kinds of stuff that fill in the gap. The easiest way to draw eyes is to have, of course, rules of thumb, and if you've been following the series up to now, you'll know that that's how I approach every drawing, with some general rules. The vertical measure, generally less than the horizontal distance of the eye, is about 24 millimeters among adults, and at birth it's 6 to 17 millimeters, which is about 0.65 inches. The eyeball grows rapidly, increasing to 22.5 millimeters, which is 0.89 inches. By 3 years of age, by puberty, the eye attains its full size. The typical adult eye has an interior to posterior diameter of 24 millimeters, a volume of 6 cubic centimeters, and a mass of 7.5 grams. What all this means is that the eye should be the smallest thing on the head, smaller than the nose, the mouth, the ears, and everything when you draw it. Once you know the technicalities and inner workings of the eye, all that's left to do is to draw it. And the secret to drawing eyes relies solely on the character you're drawing's eye. And it depends on the character you're drawing and what they're like, the personality. If you're drawing a likeness, you can just follow the photo. But for cartooning, caricature, or original character creation, you have to take the character's personality into account. For the example eyes here, we can see that the first one is a neutral eye, and this could belong to any kind of female character. We also have a neutral male eye. We'll focus on this side of the paper right now. A neutral female eye, and typically when I draw eyes, because this is basically all about stylization, as I said before, if you want to draw a really realistic looking eye, you can just follow a photograph. But if you wanted to do this is basically the way I would do it. For a neutral eye, let's say the character is just somebody supporting cast maybe, and I like this, and just put the light shining off of it. For brown eyes or darker colored eyes, typically I leave the shadow of the eye, of the eyelashes, coming across the eye and leave it halfway across the iris itself. And so that way a little bit of color, that would be the brown color, would be at the bottom of it. And that makes it look very interesting. And again, an eye like this could belong to a character that's just neutral. Not a good person, not a bad person, not a hero or a villain. Just a clear eye. Now this eye, on the other hand, a sultrier kind of eye. The lid is heavier, and we get a sense of personality from this kind of eye, as it's a lot more distinct and striking than this kind. A very specific kind of personality would have eyes like this, as far as cartooning and caricature goes. Sultry eye has a heavier lid. If it was colored, it would probably have eyeliner or something like that on it. The eyebrow is a lot more refined, probably manicured and plucked and all that type of stuff. Eyelashes are a little heavier even, and the light hits it the same way. But for the center of the eye, you might notice that there's only one reflection of light in it. It kind of gives it a soulless or kind of evil or seductive or a very hard to read effect, as opposed to this one, which is a very default kind of face with default eye. This one is a little more mysterious. And as far as the eyebrows go, for this alerted expression, I have another video on doing facial expressions, but this gives you a basic idea for the eyes. For lighter colored eyes, typically I only draw the little iris, the cornea, the black part of the eyeball, and I just leave the rest of the eye just plain white. But I do make the outline of the iris itself a little darker than I would do here, a little thicker, bolder outline on the iris than I would on the sultry eye if there's no color in it, or if it's blue eyes or gray or something. And let's move over to the male eyes to study these. Afterwards, we're going to go right into drawing. As you can see with male eyes, they're a lot more angular than the female eye, and I always leave some space between the eyelids right here, the whole frame. I leave space between the eyelid and the lower eyelash just to give it some depth. If the iris and the pupil and everything are just hitting right onto the eye like that at the bottom, and men's eyes are more angular than the female eyes, again, which are a lot rounder, a lot bolder looking, a lot more dressed up than the male eye. We can alter the shape of the eyes to give off different emotions. Suspicious eye squints a bit, it narrows from the top to the bottom, not so much across. Eyes never change width, but they do change length from top to bottom. If you widen your eyes, you widen them, like in this furious expression. The brow ridge sinks into the eye, the skin above it kind of drops down, and the eyebrow goes a lot lower. I always give the male characters eyelashes too, of course not as full as their female counterparts, but men do have eyelashes, and it's okay to draw those. If you zoom out and you look at the character from far away, the line would just be darker, there wouldn't be any lashes flaring out or anything like that, but they are there. And the thing about eyes is, eyes give your character. So whenever you're drawing, you might want to consider what kind of eye they have. If they have a plain eye, do they have heavier eyelid for a sultry kind of look, wider eyes, arched eyebrows, all that type of stuff. So how do you draw an eye? We'll get on that right now. So when I start drawing eyes, start with another right eye, outer left for example. You take a crook from the inside. I always add a tear gland to my eyes when I draw them. We'll make this a surprised eye, just to make it a little different. I always add a crook, which is the tear duct, and then a arch for the eye. Typically, I have my line break off right here, and this will indicate halfway through the arch where the bottom eyelashes start and the top ones as well. Zoom in a little bit. Then we can give the eyelash. The eyelashes just follow. And like I said, I actually use the bottom line for the eyelid, the bottom eyelid, or whatever that section is called. I separate it from the top a little bit, so the eyelashes come under that line. And if you know about eyes, pupil dilation, or the reverse of that, happens depending on your mood and receptors in your brain and all that type of stuff reacting. So this is a surprised expression. The eyebrow is going to lift, pupil is going to shrink, and just from these alone we can already tell that the character is surprised. And a good or a bad character could have eyes like this. There is no limitation or anything that applies to this kind of eye, because everyone has a surprised expression. And I'll talk a little bit more about expressions in another video. Eyelashes. And I think it's about time we ink some of these in. The separation right there and why that's important. It gives the eye a sense of depth. The tear duct. Eye goes straight up. No matter what you're doing, make sure you give your character eyelids as well. They don't have to be as heavy as the sultry look, but eyelids will give your character a better sense of realism. When I do eyelashes like these, typically I do them in twos. Two, and then break it up, put a little space in between, then another two. And it tends to look pretty nice. For the bottom eyelash, you can just kind of feather the edges of it. Feather is a comic book term. We might get on terms in another video or something. You guys want to see that. There's a surprised female eye, and it'd be much the same with a male eye, but I think I will do one just for example purposes. Perspective. One more thing I should add before starting on that. If you notice, all of the men's eyes have a lot thicker eyebrows than the female ones, which is something that I see regularly in comics. Although you can fill the girl's eyebrows in a lot, that's definitely in style. But it's a lot less groomed. You can see all the hairs and separations and everything like that. So that's another tip to make your eyes a little more unique from the male to the female eye. So let's get started on this next one here. Again, process is much the same. Start with the tear duct. Break off the bottom. I'm just going to add a straight line across, and we're not adding any somehow it already just looks like a male eye without the eyelashes flaring out on the sides. My man's eyelid might not even go so far across. Ink that in. Show you what I mean. With a guy's eyelash, you can bring it in closer to the separator, the line under the eye there. You still want to leave that so people will know the eye does have some depth. The skin folds, we put some lines to indicate that looks like a male eye, as opposed to this female surprised eye. You might wonder why they look different, even though they're basically the same. The process of drawing them was the same and everything. The key is what you don't add. If I added the two eyelashes flaring out like I did in the last one, it would just totally take a different turn, even with the eyebrows like this. Because women just have naturally fuller eyelashes than men, and women's eyebrows can be a little bit slimmer. So this is a surprise as well.
سلام، اسمي سمية. عندي 16 سنة. ساكنة في اسبانيا.